Hello, welcome to SHOWstudio. We are at the tail end of London Men's Week, Autumn-Winter 2017, and we're here to talk about Vivienne Westwood. Apologies for the delay, there's a tube strike on, which kind of reminds us that the world is falling apart and is kind of in a big mess. And I think that's a good way to think about how we look at Vivienne Westwood. I have a very Spartan panel here today. We're missing one who may make an entrance at some point soon, but I'll start with the introductions over here.
Hi, I am Sussi. My boy name is Scotty. I am a nightlife creature. I live in New York and London, and I guess I'm a performance artist, I guess you could say. Yeah. I'm not sure.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Zoe. I don't know what to call myself. I guess you would say actress. I've done 2 movies, don't want to talk about it. I collect antique clothing. I just love to play dress up. It's kind of... Yeah.
And we're all Westwood fans.
Absolutely.
Big, huge fans, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I forgot to introduce myself yesterday, but I'm Finn Mactaggart. I'm a musician, a music director, and I'm guest hosting some of the panels here this season. When we were talking about which panels to do, I really wanted to do Vivienne because at the time that we were talking about it, her son, Joe Corey, was doing this burning of all the punk memorabilia as this protest against the kind of anniversary of punk that was going on. And I remember a lot of strong negative reaction to that. And I kind of just wanted to get some opinion on what we thought of that burning and how we're supposed to kind of remember the legacy of Westwood.
I'm not sure because I thought at the time when I first started seeing media posting about it and the kind of the swirl that was happening around the idea that this was going to happen, I felt I didn't really believe it, and at the same time I was like, should I feel sad? What should I feel? I didn't really realize what it was for. I didn't know what the motives were. I was a little left with a few questions, and I still am, even though the boat is now sunk. I still am a bit confused why, and I'm still wondering what was on that boat.
Well, I mean, the idea was that he had some kind of crazy figure of how much the kind of memorabilia on there was worth. I don't think anyone really saw the clothes that were supposed to be on there. I don't really think there was anything on that boat necessarily, but it's kind of the gesture of how do we remember punk, burn the lot? I mean, is that a solution?
I think it's wasteful.
As someone who collects vintage clothing, I'm sure that's kind of anathema to you.
It made me really angry. I think it's really silly. It really kind of upset me to hear about that. I think we should remember punk for what it was and put these pieces in museums so people can, be taken back. Not burn it. I guess I understand it. Yeah, I understand why he would want to do that, but I think it's silly. We need to keep these sort of historical pieces. We need to preserve them. Yeah.
Why burn it? Why burn everything? Why? Especially in a boat.
I mean, is it punk? Is that the punk thing to do? It sounds like a really reductive question, but I guess
it is shock value. It's a lot of shock value, and that is something that runs in the Vivienne Westwood family, and they love a good wow factor. So you know what? If it means burning all of the punk on a boat, so it is. It's a bit wasteful, and but it did grab our attention. So. It was a good headline, but it was replaced after 24 hours, though. It burned and then, it's over.
Yeah.
Okay. Goodbye. Bye.
It's kind of the spirit, really, with what Vivienne's doing now is it's become less about the clothes and more about her using this platform for, you know, and she was there at the burning. She was on this kind of bus. It was quite strange, and then she came out and did this speech about climate change
With the megaphone.
Was
the
she
megaphone.
supportive of the burning?
Yeah,
of
she
the
was
climate?
there. She was there in this kind of double-decker bus, supporting her son.
Okay.
So a lot of people thought that that was a positive thing. But you know, this seems to be the approach now, that it's very much about using this platform to get ideas across.
I mean, she's the only one on her platform that I guess that's the best way you could say it, that has the strong voice of climate, evolution, warning, confusion. I don't know, she really cares, and she's the only one that I can feel like the anger from about this confusing topic.
Definitely.
Because there's not really one way you can go at solving the issue that she wants to solve. What does she call it? What does she say?
It's right there.
It says it
I
here.
keep on trying to I can't see.
She says, rotten financial system. That's the go-to. That's the word. How do you solve that? Where does the solving start? And I don't know if it's with burning a boat.
I don't know if it's putting a collection on the runway either, honestly. Like, how is that really I don't know. I guess that's another should we go into that now?
Yeah. I mean, with the world kind of collapsing around us, I mean, I find it very useful to have a voice that's like this. It is often very literal and quite preachy, but like you were saying, there's not really somebody who's out there being so direct about this, putting like very obvious "Save the Arctic" slogans on shirts and like
Right.
naming a collection after a green energy company. It's kind of bizarre. Is it necessary? Is that how we're supposed to deal with the kind of political issues of the day?
I think if you have a name, if people look up to you and people care about your opinion and like your stance on certain things, then you should definitely use that to your advantage and promote issues that need
Addressing.
Thank you.
And as well, I think that she has had such a long career and has had so many acts in her journey that I think now she's at a place where she doesn't have to give a fuck about being successful. Right. She can worry about other things. She's never really
given a fuck.
Of course, but especially now she can say, okay, I've done everything. I've enough money that I can use my platform. What should I give a fuck about? And if we all had more time in the day, and if we all had more energy, and we all had more money, of course we would all be trying to save that Arctic right now. And I think that's why it works well for her, because it's something that can come naturally to her, because she lives a very free and open lifestyle that she allows herself to worry about things that aren't her success. Like, she doesn't have to worry about opening a store. It's just, everyone has
I mean, she's saying buy less clothes. I know she mentioned at one point that people cared more about her opinions than necessarily the clothes now. So yeah, it's useful to have that kind of strong voice. But is it going about solving anything particularly? I mean, should we care about climate change in the fashion world?
Absolutely. Everyone needs to be caring about climate change. I know in America, where we're from, our new president doesn't believe that's a real thing, and that's crazy.
And that's a huge issue.
It's a huge issue, yeah.
I think the reason why I think I'm so headspun with Vivienne and the climate change topic is because, one, well, as we said, she's the only one that does this. And two, it's if everyone was on the same page and trying to be greener, it would make sense and the balance would be everywhere. But since she's the only one, it feels so heavy that it's this one brand, and once you buy into it, you have to buy into the climate change and the trying to change the world. And I wish everyone just did this. Everyone should just subconsciously just be green. Why is it just her?
Yeah, I wonder what it is that holds people back from.
As someone that's a legend and such an icon, I wish you would inspire more young people and more other designers to do so, rather than just preach and preach. I would directly go to other designers, and I'm not sure.
I mean, is it an inspiring message? Is this something that young people can really see and think, oh, that's fantastic, we're going to solve the world through fashion? I mean, we were talking downstairs about climate change actually being so like 2006 Al Gore.
It's
that was
very
like
2006.
So last season, you said.
The idea of climate change is very last season to me, because it's at the time when it first came out, the idea of climate change, like the Al Gore, the image of the hurricane coming out of the smokestack and whatnot, it was the one time where everyone said, this is what you have to worry about, and this is what you should care about. So we all did, of course. But now I feel like, okay, people are still telling me to worry about it, but there's nothing I can do besides
Have a recycling bin.
or like support her brand.
Well, she wants us all to change over to ecotricity.
Ecotricity. That sounds very expensive.
I mean, there's been a lot of stuff that's come out with scientists saying we're kind of past the point of even being able to rectify.
Can I show this to the camera?
Yeah, sure.
This is what we're reading off of. Rotten financial economy and ecotricity is what we're talking about today.
I mean, what do we think about naming a collection after an energy provider?
If it's the future, and if it's something that she is convinced that we will be using, then I support it. I have yet to be proven if I believe it or if I agree with its realisticality.
I feel the same.
It's very heavy-handed, though, no?
Yeah, it's a bit. I feel a bit uneasy about it. I don't know what it is. I'm curious to see what this collection is. We haven't seen it yet, so I don't know how to feel.
I understand the clothes are made from recycled materials, and the sequins are the water bottles.
See, I know nothing about
and
it.
and I get trying to dress people that have a more expensive fashion taste in recycled materials, because that's kind of adjusting the way we consume fashion and reuse it, I guess. But at the same time, if I buy a Vivienne Westwood wallet, am I all of a sudden going to be green and have my house powered by solar panels? Like, where do I buy ecotricity? Where do I go get it? Do I go to the Vivienne Westwood store to go get it?
They could do that. They could offer that.
Right? Like, to me, I just don't know where do I go. If you want me to do it, if you want me to go get it, I'll go get it. But I just don't know where. I don't know. How do I stop the punk boat from burning? I can't. Like, there's so many things being done that I just don't know how I can participate, because it all moves so quickly.
Well, I think the thing I've always personally loved about Vivienne Westwood has been this idea of just communicating a kind of do-it-yourself attitude, and with this her coming out and saying buy less clothes, and also now I think with this collection in the press release she's talking about sharing clothes between with your partner, and kind of just being more conscious about how you're using clothes. And I think that's quite an empowering thing to be putting forward at a time when consumerism is kind of dominating, when we've got very fast fashion and things like that. And I suppose for her, she doesn't really need to find new customers. I think she's got her base, she's got her kind of standing in British society as Dame Vivienne. And she's, I guess, less concerned by kind of finding these new customers. I mean, you collect you must have old Vivienne pieces.
Absolutely. I cut up these tights of hers, I'm sorry. But I think she might be into that. Like, when people,
I think she would be.
They're little cherub leggings. I'm all about vintage clothing. You know, I rarely buy new clothing. You know, there's so much out there that is everything. Like right now, I'm wearing something from early 1900s that are like everything was made with so much detail and time, and I don't know, I enjoy these pieces so much more than anything I see out in the stores. Everything's so expensive that I would want. It's silly. It really is silly. So that's why I also didn't like the idea of her son burning all of the old clothing. He could have just donated it to charity and like given it to people who really, I don't know, needed a t-shirt. Yeah.
I think the museums would have been a good home for some history.
Absolutely.
That's where it's supposed to go. We have the spaces. Put it there, leave it there. Don't touch it.
I mean, that's what a lot of people said. They wanted it to be donated to charity or to museums.
And if we're so concerned about, the environment, the fumes and
Yeah, that was another point people made.
Right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, I suppose this kind of, I guess this was kind of a rebellion against kind of archiving this stuff and having it be this kind of, I think he called it punk is a McDonald's brand. These pieces in museums kind of makes it this kind of exotic thing, makes it quite, I don't know, maybe makes it feel a bit more unattainable. When these were like, bits and pieces that people were picking up from hardware stores or ripping shirts up and kind of doing themselves. Is it more important to get people kind of more kind of physically involved in creating their own pieces, or kind of revering a kind of DIY movement without really being able to engage with it?
Sorry, I was thinking about how I think Vivienne Westwood's son just has a lot of hostility towards her. He must, because I don't know. I just was thinking about the burning clothing and the loss. I was not listening to what you were saying.
You're feeling the tragedy.
Yeah,
of
I'm like getting hot thinking about it. Sorry. Will you say your question again? I'm sorry. It really took me away.
Is there something that takes away from the kind of DIY nature of punk in putting it in museums, kind of rarefying it in that way? Does it kind of take away from the kind of do-it-yourself attitude? Because that's something I kind of think, I quite like the idea that we don't make punk a kind of museum piece, that it really is just a kind of energy that people feel empowered by and adopt. And that's what I think is missing at the moment, is that people feel like they have to go and buy a £400 t-shirt because they don't know how to construct clothes, or they don't feel confident enough to rip something up and start again. So what does kind of museumifying it do to punk or to her clothes?
I think museumifying is kind of what she wants, though, because I don't see anything coming down the runway now that looks punky. It's all torn and weathered, and the idea of climate change kind of carries through with the clothes, and you can see that each item that is presented kind of looks distressed and looks handmade-ish, whatnot. But I think with that specific aesthetic, I hate the word aesthetic, but with the punk look that she was so confident in at one time, I don't think there's a way to return there. So what was made at that time must be Ziploc sealed and delivered.
Yeah.
Whereas if you made something now, if she kind of expanded on those ideas now, I think that would be a time for experimentation and ripping things up, but I don't think that the old stuff needs to be destroyed. Make new stuff that we can destroy out of your recycled stuff.
She actually, last season, a lot of that collection was actually a lot of repro of prints used in the World's End collections.
Right.
And a lot of the same kind of cuts, like the muslin cut of the seditionary tops, were kind of thrown in there. So it does seem like she wants to revive that. She wants those that time period, her designs from that period to be remembered, because we're seeing them again, and I'm so happy about it. Even it's amazing the print with the tits, the nice, beautiful tits on the beautiful man from Breaking Bad, I think it is, walking down her runway. That was great. She's doing those prints all over again. Yeah, I don't know. I would like to see all of her things in a museum. I work at One of a Kind Vintage, and we have a big collection of all of her, seditionaries, World's End pieces, and I get to be around them all the time, and they really are special. And it would be, I think she's a designer that encourages people to, like what you do. You are exactly like, rip things up. I love to rip something up. Anyone who knows me. Pin stuff together.
I hate punk, I got that. Terrible. It looks so, messy.
Wait, you should show everyone what you're wearing, because this is very...
This is what she wants people to look at.
Yeah. This is the...
I've ripped her off a bit, but yeah.
It's great. What you're doing is great. I love everything. The boxers, I don't know, he's not showing himself off, but he ripped up these boxers and made them into a top, and this is like very similar to one of the original seditionary kind of prints. I forget what it said.
It's very debris glam.
Debris glam. I love that.
That's a good term. So we've come up with debris glam museumifying. There's been a lot of new words on this panel today. I mean, I'm interested, you talk about One of a Kind, and when I think of Vivienne Westwood, I think of like great, fantastic shopping in kind of height of a great time in London, in West London.
Right. King's Road,
now
right?
on the King's Road. And, people peacocking up and down the King's Road. Now we're kind of left with this kind of awful gentrified East London kind of thing that we're supposed to be happy with. London is a really crap commercial hellhole, which is too expensive, and there's very little culturally that's kind of going on. And World's End is still a cool place to shop. World's End is still a kind of enchanting, fantastic place to be. Right, exactly. And there's history in that. And I was chatting with some people the other day. We were talking about London, and London is very much like, oh, that's where that used to be, or that used to be that, or that used to be this, or.
No, it's amazing it's still there.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I mean, so that kind of, when I think of Vivienne Westwood, I think of great times in London, which we're not kind of in anymore. I mean, how do you feel about shopping in London? What's going on culturally here?
Well, we both just moved here, right?
We both moved here, and I feel a little left out and dissatisfied with the shopping in here personally.
Yeah.
A few of my favorite drag stores in London, one of them being Taurus, has just shut down last week, and very disappointed that the space for customers to go in and actually look at the clothes in person and touch them. And I'm someone that when I wear my clothes, I wear them out, I get them dirty, and I wear it once, so I never have to wear it ever again. So when I'm done, I rip it off, and I feel like I gave the piece of clothing an experience, and I gave it a story. And I don't feel like when I go shopping now, I find anything that makes me want to tell a story with the clothes that I find.
Right.
And if I do find something good, like I went into your store, One of a Kind, and I found a Vivienne Westwood blazer, but it was over £1,000, and that was nowhere on a drag queen's budget. So, yes, disappointed. And I think that's one place that New York, and especially the States, does kind of wow me, I guess. Yeah, is that the vintage there, no one knows what it is.
No.
For them, they're like, what's this? Find it in the pile of Beacon's closet. You want this?
Oh my God, Beacon's closet.
Exactly. Wow. It's like there's a kind of no one knows about fashion history there.
Exactly.
It's just like when you go into a store, it's more just like, what's cute. It's not about what's historical. Whereas the second I clocked that blazer in your store, of course it was that expensive because y'all know it's expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, what's the perspective on Vivienne there? I know she has a huge kind of Japanese hardcore fan base that are obsessed with Westwood.
Yeah.
One of these comics that I really like is called Nana, and Westwood, kind of vintage Westwood, features quite heavily in that. You know, what's the American take on Westwood?
You know, I found that like in my friend group growing up, no one really knew who Vivienne Westwood was. It was all like Marc Jacobs, Chanel, like that was it. Like
Michael Kors.
I don't even know the other names. Don't even.
Like a flip backwards. Like Austin Powers when their chairs flip backwards.
Brush that off. But yeah, I had first gotten into it because my godmother, Chrissy Hynde, was actually one of the original seditionary like sex crew ladies. And she gave my mother the Too Fast to Live, Too Young to Die sweater that she gave to me. And I was like, this is really cool. Like, I relate to this. I'm like 12. I'm like, yeah. Like, walking around with the sweater. And then I started seeing, you know, the scepter everywhere. And I was so attracted to that.
It's the image.
That image, you know, this like symbol. Regal, I don't know, this power, like this orb that just possesses this magical power. That was so attractive to me. So, and then I remember I got a tutu, one of those like circular tutus. My friend had one too. And then moving here really opened me up to the history of Westwood. I really didn't know. And my partner, he really has informed me so much about it because he collects, and it's just always in World's End and seditionary. So I recently was like, I had no idea what Let It Rock was really, and I was just looking at pictures of all the amazing pieces with the horse hair and the bones and the, oh my God, it's amazing. It makes me really want to do that.
I think one thing that obviously makes me a gigantic Vivienne Westwood fan is the iconic extreme fashion to me, and I am someone that lives for over-the-top dressing, and I always try to keep myself...
You're very demure today.
Yeah, trust me, today I look very, very simple, but 99% of my life is
I was
spent...
ready for the horns.
Oh yes, there were...
I was ready.
I was
so excited.
I was going to, but we'll get it one day.
Okay.
I posted enough of me in costumes. I can breathe for a sec, but when I fell in love with the clothes, it was for sure starting with the corsets. Me and my friends collect them in New York. We have I share a house with Miss Queen Satine, who's a major Vivienne Westwood collector.
She is
and we have a corset Vivienne Westwood wall.
Amazing.
And there's like a whole collection, and some of them have the gigantic logo on it. And to me, those are the more special ones, because the ones that have the big crunchy jewelry and the heavy rhinestones and the more luxurious it looks, to me kind of
takes away from it.
No, I actually like it because it's more ridiculous. Like I like when it looks like costume pieces. Like I want, when I wear Vivienne Westwood, I want to look like, I mean, it's kind of the way the pirate collection was approached, in that it was young people trying to look like royalty, trying to look like something else. So when I wear one of her corsets and I wear one of her pieces or an item, I think that it makes me feel like I'm dressing up as a certain character or as the character she wants me to feel. And that's why I'm kind of caught off guard by the green kind of conversation and the green
less
energy.
Playful, isn't it?
It's not playful.
Very straightforward, and I think, you know, things like the kind of paper crowns and stuff.
It's
all
really
about
aggressive,
this kind of
like this
play with regality, and Whereas this, it's just kind of whacking you over the head with an idea. And it's not, you know, I don't think we really need fashion designers to be political visionaries. I think when I listen to Vivienne talk about politics, you know, it's great and I sympathize with it, but I'm not really inspired by her political intellect. I'm inspired by her design and her cultural contributions.
Right, I feel the same.
I'm mostly inspired when she does the opposite of what she wants us to think. So when all of a sudden being the most punk you can be is dressing fancy, if she wants us to be green, why doesn't she show us all the pollution and show us if she's just showing us green, show us what's bad, who's bad, what shouldn't we buy, where shouldn't I shop?
Yeah.
Call someone out. Like, is it Zara?
Get dirty.
I don't know, show us where shouldn't I go? It's just confusing. It says enemy on this piece of paper, I think about like 8 times.
Yeah, it's really angry. There's a lot of anger.
It's a very
here.
angry piece of paper, but at the same time, I know who the enemy is in my mind. It's big businesses, banks, as she said before.
But I mean, it's quite vague.
Where do I start?
This term, the kind of rotten financial system, is quite vague in its politics.
What's good for the planet is good for the economy. What's bad for the planet is bad for the economy. So is she gonna like donate all her profits off this collection to this to this company? Like, what is?
We've got Julia will be arriving in 5 minutes.
Yay, Princess Julia is almost here.
Yes.
She's arrived.
She's coming. She's still coming. Yes. Right. So maybe we can move on. I want to talk a bit about Andreas, because Andreas has been a figure in her life for quite a while now. He's recently had a kind of solo show, which was Andreas for Vivienne. He's always kind of designed the men's looks, and they have a very interesting relationship together. He's not always somebody that people know a lot about, but he's a fairly eccentric character who also cares about a lot of these environmental issues. And I'm under the impression that he's worked on a bit of the men's looks in this show. They're doing men's and women's together on Men's Week. What do you guys know about Andreas? What do you think? Did you see his show?
I saw the collection and I've seen his work in the past. I think their relationship is more about what he stands for and not about what he designs for. So his approach is more vocal than it is visual to me. And I've seen clips of him talking, and every time I see him talking, it's save the gorillas, save the Arctic, save the something, save them, save us, save who, save whoever. And to me, I think that's what Vivienne wanted in someone, in a partner, is someone that said the same message that she wanted to say, but I think she needed someone younger to say it louder and with more energy to like really bring it home. I don't think she wanted to be the only one that was shouting this. I think she needed someone that was younger and more relevant to kind of take it home and make it a little more relatable for young people. And so I think he's a great vehicle to translate the climate change topic to us as young.
Does he make it more relatable to young people?
He's trying his best. He's really trying.
I mean, he is younger than her, but I don't know if he makes it more relatable to young people.
I think mostly in the way he goes about, he's very serious. When I've seen his YouTube videos, he expressed that this is his first YouTube video and the first time he's ever spoken on camera, and all he had to say was "save the gorillas." And to me, that's a young person using a platform to say their message, and that's their message. And now he's using Vivienne's platform as well, and I think that's what young people do. Young people use other people's platforms.
I mean, Vivienne called him the greatest designer in the world, I think. How do we feel about that? Quite the statement. I think when it was just before he was showing his show, I mean, it's something to that effect.
I don't think he's the greatest designer in the world, but
I want to know who else thinks he's the greatest
Definitely,
designer in the world
respect
other than
him.
Vivienne Westwood.
but he for sure is doing something that nobody is doing, and it's doing something that I haven't seen in a while, let alone since in fashion. No one really does climate change in fashion besides them, and he really cares. He cares almost more than Vivienne, I think, and I think that's why she loves it.
She loves it. She definitely loves it.
Loves it.
I'm going to be honest, I really don't know much about him. I really don't. I know a lot about Matthew McLaren.
Right.
Yes, as everyone should.
As everyone should. But,
Carry on about that then.
okay. I just like constantly hearing Madame Butterfly in my head. But I know that he was kind of the visionaire and who really pushed Vivienne to go to be where she is now. I mean, like, I know that he went to New York and met Richard Hell, and that's kind of who you know, was wearing all the ripped, like burnt, safety pinned, grotesque clothing that he thought was beautiful and like shining armor, and he brought it back here to the UK. Oh, look who it is.
Hello, gorgeous. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Hello.
We're being joined by Princess Julia now.
Matthew McLaren. Yeah.
Malcolm McLaren are we talking about?
Malcolm McLaren. Yes. Wait. Did I say? I'm so. Did I say Matthew? Did I say Matthew?
Carry on.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm the worst. Oh, Jesus. So we're talking about Malcolm McLaren. How. Yeah, I don't know what. I lost track.
Why don't we? Have you been mic'd up now? Is Julia mic'd up?
I'm on.
Okay, great.
I'm
Excellent.
on.
Why don't you introduce yourself? Because we've done our introductions.
Okay, so I'm Princess Julia, and should I talk to camera?
Why not?
And yes, I do a bit of writing, a bit of DJing. That's the main thing I'm known for. And I work at ID as a culture correspondent. I made that up. And I work as editor at large, actually, at Man About Town, which is thrilling. That's one of my favourites.
Good.
And whatever else comes along, really. Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
One thing I wanted to get your take on, actually, because we started talking about the kind of burning of punk memorabilia at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the reason I really wanted to have the kind of discussion about Vivienne Westwood. You know, how should we be remembering the legacy of Vivienne Westwood? Should we burn the lot?
I don't really think we should, actually. I think we have to keep some of it to see in real life. It's because it's a fascinating archive, and the legacy of their shops, Malcolm and Vivienne's shops, is totally fascinating, and it's interesting. I don't know if they're, you know, it's quite a controversial thing, isn't it? I've not really looked into it that much, a little bit. Obviously online, I've looked at things and seen both sides of the story. And both sides have valid points. And you know, if the Westwood family have you know, archive to burn and that's what they choose to do, I guess that's their choice, isn't it, really? But personally, I like to see those things in real life, because you know, the work that they did in the beginning really was it was very inspirational. I mean, you can't imagine, like the mid-70s, there wasn't a lot really going on I'm from that time. And I sort of was involved partly in the sort of the emergence of the sort of punk scene, which was a very small group of people, really. There's probably like 200 people, even probably less, and it was a very mixed, eclectic, kind of creative scene of artists, musicians, designers, and everyone sort of experimenting with many aspects of their image and how they presented themselves. And you know, punk gave us permission to do that and to you know, step out with some kind of sort of bravado.
Right. I mean, we were talking about
it's
kind
extreme,
of
really.
We were talking about kind of peacocking down the King's Road, and Vivienne kind of conjures up this idea of a really fantastic creative time in London. And now London feels quite commercial and far too expensive, and there's not really fantastic places to shop as much anymore.
Really? Don't you think so?
Well,
I think there is.
Well, I'm glad you're here now.
What about the Dover Street Market?
Let's go shopping.
It's sensational in there, and I like the way that, and really, sex and seditionaries, they kind of introduced that idea of, you know, the shopping experience, where the shop became a kind of installation, and that's part of the legacy of punk, is that, you know, in actual fact, you can really see that in places like the Dover Street Market, where there's you know, artists' installation work, and even if you don't buy anything in there, it's a really, you know, interesting and fascinating sort of trawl through all the designers in there and how they choose to create their own unique spaces. It's great.
I think.
I mean, go ahead.
My issue with what you said about the Dover Street Market, I love what they do. Everything they have in there is so stunning. And if I had $1 billion in my pocket, I would go shop up everything. But to me, to be creative with fashion, if I go into a store, I need 6 pieces. I'm going to take the 6 pieces and turn it into one piece by cutting them up or manufacturing them and kind of playing with the fashion, but I can't afford 6 pieces from there, I can only afford 1. So when I go shopping, I can only buy one thing, but I don't feel creative when I buy it because I'm only bringing this one thing. If I could afford 6 things from the store, I'd cut them up, I'd sew them all together and then feel kind of punk about it, but to me, why would I go in there and just buy one thing if it's too expensive for myself? I want to be creative.
I've just got to say one thing here, that actually, seditionaries, it was really expensive.
Okay.
Really?
It was really, really expensive.
Really?
You know, I used to save up my tips, because I was a hairdresser then, and I used to save up for the bondage trousers.
Right.
So it wasn't, it
How
was
much were they?
couture. Well, they were about £40, but I only got paid £12.50 a week. So it's relative, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So it was really quite expensive in actual fact.
But I guess it was that people were kind of inspired by the ideas there to go out and just buy stuff from hardware stores and things like that, and kind of adorn themselves.
What it did do was, like, you could go in there and look at things, and some of it was sort of, you know, not dissimilar to what you're wearing, you know, sort of stenciled on and sort of patched together, and you could do your own, basically, and that was fine too, you know. But the actual items in that shop were quite expensive, you know. We all tried to nick things under the eagle eye of Jordan. He saw everything.
We were talking about Jordan earlier, actually.
Yeah, amazing woman. Yeah, a real inspiration. Yeah.
I mean, that was a very good time of kind of muses. We spoke about muses yesterday, how models are really quite bland these days, and there's a lot less kind of real personalities on runways, kind of people that inspire people to design clothes around. I mean, how do you guys feel about contemporary muses in fashion in the way that kind of Vivienne had people like, I don't know, Sarah
she had
Stockbridge
rock stars. She had you know, the Sex Pistols, and there was the New York Dolls, and
Boy George.
Boy George, yeah, real characters. I don't know, I'm not really inspired by most of the people that I've seen walking down the runway, not to offend anyone. Like, I don't know. I feel like fashion is about dressing bodies, not fitting a personality.
Perhaps Vivienne Westwood invented the idea of the street cast inadvertently without really thinking about it.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, if you think London Fashion Week didn't really start till 1984 anyway, so they were producing like collections in their shops long before that, as they sort of went along. I don't know if it was really very structured, like seasonal, but I actually do see a lot of people doing using personalities. Ashley Williams' show, she did a street cast that was wonderful. I saw a few of my friends in that. And Charles Jeffrey,
Yes, Charles
he does
Jeffrey.
a street cast, you know, and
No,
all
it's
those
nice
people have
though.
loads of personality, and even Charles, I saw Charles in the pub just before his show, and I went, oh yes, I can be in your show, and he was like, yeah, I think we were a little bit tipsy, so I didn't expect that to happen. But you know, there is actually, I think designers do think very much about diversity. That's quite a sort of buzzword, isn't it, around at the moment. So I think, any one of us could be strutting our stuff down a catwalk maybe at some point. I mean, I've done it a few times, but I can only be on the specials.
I think we have the show ready, don't we? I mean, why don't we have a
marvellous.
look? We can have a look at the live stream now. We're all together.
So were all the shows running really late, or?
I think yeah, because of the strike, shows have been
Yeah.
running late.
Yeah.
We've had this kind of screen recorded, so we can take a look now, and I'll get your guys' kind of first impressions of this.
Her knitwear is always
For me, the knits stand out for
exceptional.
sure.
I mean, long sleeves have been
IOU.
Wow.
quite a feature lately.
Long sleeves, long collars.
Yeah.
I enjoy how fast the models are walking because it feels like they're walking with a reason and a passion. So to me, if they were walking slow and casually, I would be a little confused. Whereas to me, like, this to me seems like a message is trying to be said, which I, of course, appreciate. Yes, Christmas boots.
Ooh, that suit.
So how much of this is recycled?
I'm not
That's
sure.
makeup.
I'm surprised there's costume makeup.
Right. And it's set, I mean, it seems to be set in a school gym, which is an interesting one.
There is something kind of playful about the collection that kind of reminds me of, you know, Where the Wild Things Are, and like the little kid, what's his name? I forget. With the like crown on his head in the like in the big jumpsuit, the like cozy jumpsuit, and like twigs in his hair. Like there was that headpiece. I don't know. There's kind of this.
Disheveled look.
Yeah, that's all. Like with the knitwear, it kind of feels adolescent in a way, but not in a way that's like the kid that's always like made to sit on a bench and like turn towards the wall, like the naughty kid who like was always thinking about something he shouldn't have been thinking about. But it's definitely taken a turn here.
I really enjoyed the first few looks, but now I'm a little confused.
I'm a bit
What
confused.
about that for a day wear
It's a
kind
bit
of
warlocky.
swish?
Very warlocky, yes.
Yeah.
I like it. I like this cloak thing.
Yeah.
It looks.
I love a warlock. I'm not mad at it.
It looks like each model's about to present some really bad news. Like it looks like they all have some really, really terrible thoughts on their mind, and at the end of the room, able to spew it out.
It's got a witchy vibe for sure. And that look, this look.
Do you always see sort of traces of previous
Right, I was going to
collections?
mention
There's
the kind of
definitely some World's
coming
End.
through? So there, I mean, there was a
there.
collection called Witches.
Yeah.
Like that way
Yeah.
back, but you know, there's a bit of that in there. But they always kind of like update things with different fabrics and sizing and things like
That looks
that.
like a-
that hat's a real sort of classic shape, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's what's kind of wonderful about Westwood.
Those
is that
trousers are very
she sort of-
pirate
Yeah, she sort of
collections, like, yeah.
regenerates things very sort of cleverly. You know, that her signature shapes and things, but also it looks really contemporary.
Wow.
She's always going forward. They're great, aren't
fantastic.
They're
they? You could wear
beautiful.
those.
Those pants, yeah.
Actually, that whole look, that's you.
Yes, actually,
Really
that is what I would
nice,
choose.
you
Yes.
know. It looks very
Oh, and the star on the
lavish.
booty, yes.
So opulent.
See, this is what I would rather see in her shows
Yeah.
is the opulent, lavish style
Ooh,
clothing.
wow,
because
Yeah, but
that
she's got to
shirt's
think of her
amazing.
sort of
So those pants.
her buying audience demographic as well. So there's got to be things that you know, because we love the wacky things, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's got to be other things in there, you know, some underpinnings
To balance it
so
out,
that
yes, of
you can
course.
still be sort of adventurous and feel, you know, the
Something very
quirkiness
childish
of
about
Westwood.
that.
Yeah.
The cutting
What
the
about
cloth.
that?
you
And
know,
also, if every look was
School, they
equally
do
shocking,
cloth.
then
We're
none of the
having,
looks
like,
would be
two
shocking. There
different
has to be some
colors.
in-between moments to breathe and then have time to digest, to be re-shocked.
And I mean, you see these kind of, you were mentioning the buffalo type hats,
Yeah.
which obviously took off in a huge way commercially because Pharrell had
Oh,
that
yes,
kind of
that's right.
moment. It became the Pharrell hat rather than the kind of buffalo hat.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of featured in a reinvented way here again. I mean, it's just always, she has so much to kind of
Oh, wow.
lean back on.
That's
You
beautiful.
know, really, she's so visionary. You know, like she's never sold out. She's always
Right.
stuck to like that's her signature styles, which, you know, if you look back 10 years, if you look back 20 years,
Yeah.
you know, there's always been a very sort of modernistic thread.
Yeah.
That kind of brings it all up to date all the time. Never seems to get tired and never goes out of fashion because it's sort of its own fashion in a way.
Do you think young people still get inspired by watching a Vivienne show?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
For
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
yeah. And if you can't afford it, you can make something yourself. There's
Right.
still that kind of idea in there.
Right.
I am a little confused how the collection ties into ecotricity.
Yeah.
Are the lights above the models powered by ecotricity? Like, was that said? Like, I just want to know, because if it's going to be the whole press release is going to be ecotricity, I want to know
Oh, is it? I've not
where's
seen the press release.
Do you
Yeah,
have,
let's
it's the
give
whole
you one
thing
of
is
these.
ecotricity.
Oh, that's good.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier, Julia, about naming she's named the collection after this green energy company,
Okay.
obviously to push us
Wow.
all towards
That's
green
fantastic.
energy, but
Yeah.
kind of
Very,
rare
like,
for a
pussy
designer to
riot.
name their collection after an energy company.
Yeah.
Seductress.
I would imagine that it's all solar powered.
I really love the red
everything's
piece
made
of
out
art.
Yeah.
of
The
and what
the,
have
like,
you.
cut of the boots as well.
I think to me the use of the red is important because it's such a very aggressive message that she's trying to get across, and having the red clothes come through and it almost looks like battle costumes in a weird, like the masks and the ski masks kind of, it looks like they're about to go into some fight for their planet.
Yeah.
way.
Some of it
I've
is
got
a bit
question.
apocalyptic.
I've got a question.
Go ahead.
Now, you know, like fashion and politics, can they go together? Do you think? Do you think Vivienne's sort of like the catalyst for that kind of idea?
Well, I mean, we were talking. She's like one of the only designers right now that kind of so literally goes
Yeah.
into these issues.
Yeah.
I mean, how do they gel together? Is it necessary for designers to be speaking that directly to their consumers about these issues? Does it help?
I'm asking you.
I don't know. I mean, I sympathise very heavily with all her issues. They're issues I care about.
Well, they're world issues.
Everyone
so
should. Everyone should
us
care.
all. So I think it's actually really. I think it's actually really important that we are all aware of the state of our planet and what we can do to, keep it sustainable or, give back rather than taking, all the time. But and it's very interesting how she's applied that to fashion. With this particular collection, it's definitely going more in that direction, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
Actually, and I sort of, there's other designers that are into it, like Catherine Hamnett. She's a great advocate of, like using natural fabrics and things, and she's well on it actually.
How do you feel about Vivienne, the way she dresses women? I'm quite interested in, because we're in Men's Week, but we're looking at some women's looks. That I've seen with things like Vetements and Balenciaga, this kind of return of this kind of heavy-shouldered kind of power suit, almost Thatcherite-looking woman that has to kind of dress very, I guess the word is powerfully. But Vivienne's always seemed to me to kind of cut against that and want to dress women in a very romantic way, in a very, not a kind of, or even dress men in a very romantic way as well. Which I think cuts against this kind of, return of the kind of shouldered power suit type look that Balenciaga go for at the moment.
Yeah, I'm into both sort of looks.
Right.
But I have to say that when you wear the Westwood-y things, they're really comfortable to wear.
Right.
And you don't feel restrained or...
Except for the corsets.
They're nice.
Except for the corsets.
Oh, well, yeah.
That's not very comfortable.
Well, they can be.
Some of them are quite stretchy.
Yeah.
Not with my masculine rib cage.
Oh.
Wearing
they've got some men's versions.
wearing her corsets for me are always an extra. So, yeah, I'm not often comfortable.
I think they do consider the body. I think Westwood consider the body, whereas maybe the Balenciaga is always it's a much more tailored look, isn't it? But it's with that you get permission, shall we say, to contort other parts of your body with tailoring and padding and things like that. But if Vivienne does something like that, it's done in a very much more sort of relaxed manner.
Yeah, there's more draping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always loved Vivienne's women's wear because, being someone that's very curvy, I've always been really intimidated by a lot of other designers and their work because I feel like most of their clothing is made to fit a man's body. But Vivienne really embraces, the curves and like all of her dresses, she like loves to like caress the boobs, like hold them up, like show the waist, and like there's always some sort of like bulge to accentuate, the ass.
From that, go ahead.
From a consumer's perspective, I kind of see that she tries to make clothes for superhumans in a weird way, that it's people that, as we said, people that don't have to worry about anything, all they have to worry about is the planet. So they've evolved past everything, and their main focus is saving the planet and looking fabulous, and creating this human with the shoulder pads and the boots and the corset. To me, all the components of the reoccurring imagery she uses goes to the idea of creating either a stronger human, a stronger planet. It's all about strength. So for me, the shoulder pads are very vocal.
I love that.
Yeah. It's also, all these costumes are so superhuman, and especially as we go later into the show, there's all those ski masks. And to me that is, as we talked about the models before, and how the models are kind of anonymous, and how muses aren't as part of our culture today. I don't think they don't exist as much. The clothes are meant for the buyer and someone to buy it and feel powerful in them to use her message. It's not about the glam on the runway right now. I think it's about buying it.
There are certainly, like you were saying, there's a lot of designers who are street casting, who are bringing personalities onto the runway.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that I remember at the BFAs, the kind of Model of the Year award had Kendall Jenner, Gigi Hadid, Bella Hadid, and Adwa, who is actually a very beautiful and talented woman.
Yeah.
And Gigi Hadid won it, and that was a real letdown for kind of culture generally, or the state that we're in. And those are kind of, this kind of Kim Kardashian type is supposed to be the kind of a 2017 muse. And I think that's kind of what I wanted to get at about, Vivienne's muses were always far more interesting people.
Interesting people.
Yeah.
You can tell that these clothes were inspired by interesting people with interesting opinions. To me, when I see a floor-length sequin, lace, whatever, bombing, whatever, that all looks the same to me, that it's goddess clothing, but this is more goddess clothing to me because this is something that I want to step myself up into. To me, these clothes, they're bigger, they're stronger, all of the skin is covered. They're very shield-like to me, and to me these look like people that would be battling climate change.
Yeah, everyone looks very prepared. They're ready.
To me, this looks like her collection
ready to wear.
I think these are clothes that are meant to be worn in a future that she's not looking forward to. So in a future, because we're not fixing climate change right now, we're not. Donald Trump is the US president. Nothing's getting solved. So these are going to be our clothes to wear when the ice caps melt. So.
Exactly.
Right? I'll need a ski mask. Can we show the red ski mask look?
Yeah, I love that look.
Can we go to that look? Oh. And the heat, you can feel the heat kind of rising with the clothes, and I enjoy that.
This one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To me, that's one of the strongest, only because it looks like you could do something in it. Yeah. All the models walked so fast. For a reason. Where are they going?
What do we think of the hair and makeup?
I'm a bit confused by the costume makeup, but I love drag queens, so.
You mentioned the word costume in reference to the clothes as well. I mean, she obviously enjoys kind of historic dress and what you were talking about, corsetry and big boobs and things like that. It evokes a kind of more historic lady rather than the kind of stick-thin modern woman. How does costume play a role with it? Costume kind of feels like a kind of nasty word in fashion often if it's too costumey.
Can I start this one off and then I will
Please,
hand it right over?
go for it.
When it comes to costumes and fashion, every time we put something on our body, we are choosing it because we are dressing up as a character we think we want to be. So every time I put something on, I am putting on my playing card. I am becoming the person that I want to dress as. So if I am buying into the message she's sending, which everyone should, because climate change is a very gigantic message that we should all pay attention to, I think if we're going to dress up to as the character who fights climate change, this is a fantastic way to look. And I like this better than just looking like a boring goddess to me. This is more exciting, and this is costume because it's playing, these are heroes to me on the runway. They're heroes walking down the runway.
I like this cocktail dress with sneakers, ready to run.
Ready to run, yeah.
Ready to run.
There's energy.
Yeah.
Which is, I think that's what the youthful energy that Andreas does bring to it, because he is very aware of. I'm not sure. I don't know. Brain fart.
Are these clothes going to solve climate change?
No.
They're making a statement.
Yeah.
You know, and Vivienne's making a statement and using her work as a catalyst to put a message across. So I think it all adds. It's all valid. I think the makeup, it's quite sort of tribalish, isn't it? I guess that's, you know, a warrior kind of idea. And I love your idea of dressing, because I always think that everything is drag. Even if you wear bland drag or basic drag, which we love too, that's nice.
Exactly.
You know, it's still like you're putting clothes on for maybe to do a functional job. So you've got to wear your sort of executive realness kind of drag. But it's still drag. I can see you've got yours on today.
I'm wearing pants for one. Yeah, exactly. And everyone in this room, especially,
we're all in drag.
Everyone
we're all in drag.
You chose that spiky headband for a reason. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the character that you're playing, and I love it.
What about these things? They're quite they're glamorous, aren't they? This gold number.
I love that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's very sort of my lady.
It's very
What's going on her
It's also
face?
very triumphant, the finale look. To me, the whole collection was very heavy and the models walked fast and it was kind of war looks, but to me, the finale, maybe she thinks there will be a positive outcome in the world and that the gold kind of represents the hope for the end of the collection. Like,
what about this
Do we
print?
know? Yeah, what is the print?
It looks like her face, doesn't it?
maybe it's
There's a bit of her face.
There's a couple of her faces there. I mean, I really love, the thing I love about Westwood is she wears her own clothes. It really frustrates me when designers don't wear their own clothes. There's something strange to me about that.
I think that's a bit odd.
It's
Yeah.
weird, yeah.
It's very odd, and I love that when you see her, she is fully decked out in her own
Always.
things, and she has her own face on the dresses.
and you can tell she loves what she makes too.
Right,
Everything
exactly.
she makes, she loves.
Yeah, and they have a great team up there at Westwood. They're all really dedicated. And I think a lot of the people that are involved with her company, they kind of started off as fans as well. So they're you know, and she's had people with her for years and years and years on this like amazing creative journey. I think that's quite interesting as well, because it just keeps, I liked what you said about it being sort of energising and forward thinking as well, which is, I don't know, it's a sort of never ending.
Yeah, and fashion is so forward thinking. I mean, this is for next year.
It's exciting.
These are clothes we're going to wear next year, not now. So I guess if this is the future that she wants us to pay attention to, this is a very fantastic platform, because fashion is a year ahead. It's everything's.
Well, I mean, see now, buy now seems to be a conversation that's
what's that
coming
all
up
about?
a lot.
Yeah.
There's been a few see now, buy now collections that have come out this season. I don't really know what, I mean, they've renamed London, it used to be London Collections Men's. I think this year is this season's the first time they're calling it London Fashion Week Men's. I think they realised London Collections Men's sounded
I'm a
like
bit
some kind
behind with that.
Right.
I wonder what that was.
And she's also showing women's and men's looks together.
Yeah, and there's a few designers doing that, like Sibling I went to yesterday.
Right.
They're always very exciting
those boots are amazing.
and
I love
inspiring.
that,
And they've decided to combine the two in together, and it was kind of going that way as well. But it frees up time to sort of be creative in other directions as well, I feel. And I'll tell you what I loved, right? Fashionista. That was so exciting to me, the way they presented their work. Did you go to that? Were you in it?
I was in the Charles show, but after that,
the Fashionista.
Yes.
Oh my god, it was so good.
I saw the Charles.
Because actually, the idea of a catwalk is actually, I find it quite formal, actually, and I'm wondering if things can't be, you know, that was what was really interesting about the Charles Jeffrey show, was that you had these like mud people on at the beginning. So it was a whole spectacle.
Yes. Yeah.
Because fashion shows are a complete spectacle, and they're, you know, and they are.
Oh yes, this was a
you know, an amazing sort of live experience. Actually, that if you see them online, it's not the same.
No.
Even though they are very fleeting, and that was so fantastic. And those amazing sculptures that Gary Carr did, they were just beyond.
Yes.
So beyond. And but at Fashion East they had this collective, well, it's two designers called Art School.
I think we're looking at it now.
So good.
Fantastic.
And Theo Adams did this whole dance routine.
Theo Adams did Charles as well.
Yeah, he did, didn't he? And it was really, really exciting. Like, and so it was like an installation, and it just sort of carried on. So you could sit down like you were an audience, but you could leave or come as you pleased.
Yeah.
Well, I found that really exciting.
Yeah.
That you weren't confined to this sort of formal catwalk show where, and it lasts sort of 10 minutes tops.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it, everyone in, everyone out. And actually, I find that sort of fluidity of going to like an event that you can hang around for a couple of hours and just sort of have a cup of tea or whatever, just enjoy what's going on. And likewise, the Rottingdean Bazaar was just so fabulous. I love what they do. You can tell I'm a super fan.
I mean, I'm glad we're mentioning
so
these
good.
other designers. Particularly Charles, I was going to bring up in terms of people who now are making a lot of headlines, who are very clearly influenced by Westwood. So I'm quite interested in talking about Charles Jeffrey in that context of his obvious love of what she does and how Vivienne's affecting London Week now. Which other designers are?
I think that one thing that Charles has that very, very few other people have is that he recognizes the importance of club culture, and I know that is overused a ton, and people always talk about club culture and what does it mean, but he is the only way you can confidently make fashion inspired by club culture is if you've lived it, you've breathed it, and he is someone that really has paid his dues in terms of nightlife, and he's been out, he knows the people. It's not, it's what's like, for example, sometimes I'll be out in New York and I'll see some designer that everyone knows, but they come out once a year, and then their lookbook is photos in a club, and I'm like, are you kidding? You go once, like this is not. There's no dialogue between us and you. You are up here, and we are stuck in a nightclub. Whereas to me, Charles, I was stuck in a nightclub, and he found me, and he put me in a show. That is a direct process that only he uses.
I mean,
club
but
to
actually, you said that has happened before with designers through the decades. If you look at Body Map,
of course,
you know, and you know, and I think what's interesting about club culture right now is the way that, you know, I think in the sort of in the 90s, it was just about, you know, a DJ and the music, and it was quite sort of separate. And I think the spaces that we have created, all of us now, give us permission to experiment with the fabric of the place, you know, and the walls, so you can actually do something creative in these spaces. So it's not just about the music or the, you know, everyone's a DJ nowadays. You know, everyone can doing that.
If they pay enough, I'll do it.
Everyone can do it. And that's fun. And everyone should be allowed to do these things because they're accessible. They're not hard to do at all. Everyone should do it. You know, all these things, they all add to the bigger picture, don't they? So, you know, and I think what comes across with Charles's work is that he has a lot of fun creating things, and having talked to him and
I mean, he's a very fun person.
Yeah, you know, it's really exciting. It brings a lot of excitement into the equation. You know, and it's not, you know, he's willing to sort of take some risks and have, you know, and have a laugh. You know, as well. But also make some serious statements. You know, with these looks and things. You know, and there is. That was
Blue suit.
hilarious.
The blue suit is fantastic.
That leather.
Were you in that?
Yes, I was the I was the finale look, the one at the very bottom.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I was very grateful to be a part of something
Yeah,
so
yeah.
iconic and special, and I will forever be grateful.
I thought all the designers at the Man Show, they were great. I loved the installation that Tony Hornecker did, you know, at the beginning, and then when and then it walked. Was it Piers? I can't say the name. Anyway, I thought that was fabulous. Actually,
Yeah.
I thought all the designers were very strong individually. But obviously, we know the Charles Moore, don't we? So obviously,
Well, I think that's
we're sort of more on that plane. But yeah.
having gone through quite a few of the London designers, I think that's a very nice way to end our kind of London men's discussions. This will be our last kind of London Men's Week panel.
Oh, is it?
I think we're at a good time, aren't we? Yeah. Yeah. So I guess that's us signing off from London Men's Week.
Wow.
Thank you all for joining us, and
Thank
see
you.
you
Thank you
in
for having me.
Paris.
Thanks.